Hello, my name is Jenna Blair Soroka. I'm a licensed health and nutrition counselor and mindset specialist. I help women nurture a more positive and self-loving relationship with food and their bodies using a weight-neutral approach and focusing on cultivating habits and behavior changes that allow you to go from the relentless pursuit of the thin ideal and food obsession to embracing your imperfections and uncovering reasons behind self-sabotage. It's time for you to reclaim your health and wellness through the power of curiosity, compassion, and courage, and find worth beyond measurement. So today I have Natasha with me, and she is a Canadian non-diet nutritionist, body image activist, Zumba instructor, and entrepreneur. She spent years being a slave to diet culture, but she was never able to keep the weight off. After hitting rock bottom, she finally gained food freedom and learned to truly love herself. Her lived experiences inspired her to help others struggling with the same issues to have food freedom and accept their bodies too. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenna. I am so excited to talk to you.
Yes, just for people watching, we first met on Instagram, as I think a lot of us coaches and nutritionists, we do. It's such a great platform to connect. But I was excited to connect with you, especially because you're a fellow Canadian and we're just neighbors. So that's great.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, so I would love to know what led you to becoming a nutritionist and then eventually switching to more of that anti-diet nutritionist approach.
Okay, so I'll have to start from the beginning of my life. Basically, I grew up as a chubby kid. Like, no matter how much I exercised or ate well, because my mom was always offering like a bunch of awesome, nutritious foods. But no matter what I did, I was just always a chubby kid. And my parents never made me feel bad for that at all. I was just living my life as a child. And that was back in South Africa. And so I moved to Canada when I was around 8 years old. And I noticed how my body was completely different from everyone else's. And then, just growing up, talking to your friends, looking at the media, you start to notice what the ideals are for beauty. And then I started seeing more and more that I was not fitting those ideals. And I realized that I would have to lose weight if I wanted to, be beautiful in this society. And so as I grew up, it just got more and more intense until the end of high school. And that's when I had the hugest crush on this guy, and he told me that I would be more attractive if I lost 50 pounds. And so, right? Mm-hmm. And so instead of taking that as like, oh, it's not worth liking him, I was like, okay, 50 pounds, that's the challenge. I got this, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing the Insanity Workout by Shaun T. Not sure if you've heard of it, but they say it's the most intense workout program on DVD. And so I was like, yes, this is perfect. And so I followed the 3-month program and I did lose 50 pounds. And when I lost that weight, everyone was so happy for me. I got so many compliments. People were asking me what I did. And I had been following all this wacky nutrition advice the whole time to lose the weight, except I thought it was the truth. And so I was sharing that with people. And when it got to university time, my intentions for being in nutrition were more for weight loss and just trying to figure out more ways to, shrink myself basically and shrink other people. But with time in the program, I started gaining back all the weight, and it was really traumatizing. And of course, the diet was never realistic in the first place. So it makes sense that I started gaining back all the weight, and I even gained back more. And so I started feeling super down about myself, and I saw a dietitian. Her name is Amy Pickering. And I told her, like, on the first initial appointment, I need to lose 50 pounds. And so I thought that she would be able to do that for me. But what she did instead was offer me a different approach. And it was intuitive eating, health at every size, all that stuff. I had never heard of it before.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did hear about it, it like made something click in my brain. And I was like, what? This whole time I wasn't the problem. It was diet culture that was the problem. And so that like complete change in mindset made me want to share the same news with everyone else that would possibly listen. And so that's what made me switch to anti-diet nutrition.
Oh.
And that was in about 2017. And so I've been doing that ever since.
Okay, so wow, like you touched on so much about how impactful diet culture is on just from like the formative years to going into adulthood, and just how do we live our lives outside of these like strict expectations of what we're supposed to look like and how we're supposed to act. And you kind of seem to have hit all of that along your way, right?
For sure, so much experience.
Yeah, and I'm curious, so you said you made that switch in 2017, or was that when you made the switch? So when did you start your initial schooling for it all?
In 2013.
Okay, so you have lived experience and you have quite a bit of professional experience too.
Yes. I definitely know the science behind it, and it's just crazy because I really wanted to beat the science. Once I saw that they weren't going to be just teaching us about weight loss, I just wanted to know the best way to lose weight, whether or not it was healthy. And that's just so problematic.
And I think like when people go through, like there's stages that people go through when they're navigating diet culture, and you kind of just touched on that, where initially you're like, how do I lose weight, doing all like the quick fix sort of stuff, and then it becomes more insidious where people are like, well, what's the science behind it all? Right? And we're like, what's this? And that was kind of like me too. It's like, well, I just want to, I generally love the science behind it all, right? And so it just kind of seemed quote unquote healthy, like it wasn't being influenced by diet culture. Yet in your Instagram page, you really break down the nuances of diet culture itself. So before we kind of get into that, and you probably touched on it a little bit already, but how do you define, or what does non-diet nutrition mean to you? Because in your experience, when your nutritionist started introducing you intuitive eating and health at every size, does that play a role in what non-diet nutrition is?
Oh yeah, for sure. So non-diet nutrition, basically the key message is that diets don't work. And so it's really just encouraging people to take a wider view at health and just not looking at your health based on your weight and your size. It's more about intuitive eating, going back to how you ate as a child and not following all the external rules that we've grown up with. It's, just trying to get in touch with your hunger's body, like with your body's hunger and fullness cues, right? Because as we grow up, we start to ignore those things. We eat based on a schedule. We eat based on what people tell us to eat. We're just not listening to our bodies at all. So it's about trying to get back to that space where we're listening to our bodies, trusting our bodies. And there's also a big focus on enjoyable movement. So you're working out because you want to, you're doing things that you actually enjoy. So it's a lifestyle change. It's actually being healthy. It's not just working out to burn the most calories that you can. And so, yeah, I would say that that's the general part of what non-diet nutrition is. You're just not demonizing any foods. You look at it neutrally. If you are craving something, you eat it. It's not good or bad. You don't have to have any feelings around it. It's just food.
Yeah. And that can be really scary for a lot of people. I know in my own personal journey, just making that transition where it's like, am I eating this because I actually enjoy it, or am I avoiding
Hmm.
things because I'm scared it's bad or quote unquote like unhealthy, all that stuff. And so I'm kind of curious, when you're working with clients who come to you, I'm assuming they're coming for weight loss a lot of the times. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if they're coming for weight loss, they soon realize that it's not gonna be about that. So are people kind of resistant in the beginning when they're starting to build that body trust?
Well, right now, I'm not seeing clients as a nutritionist,
Mm-hmm.
but just based on all the interactions that I have with people on a daily basis, people asking me questions, it's always about weight loss. And people tell me that they're willing to do whatever it takes to lose weight, whether it's healthy or not. And they just want my opinion on how to do that. Even though I think I'm pretty straight up about how I'm all about non-diet nutrition.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's touch on maybe a little bit of um, the insidiousness of diet culture and some of the
Mm,
misconceptions around that. Like, I think what you talk about really great in your content is the topic of weight stigma, and that's not really kind of mainstream conversation, but that, based on the research and also talking to people with the lived experience, it plays a big role in one's overall health. So kind of what are your thoughts on the topic of weight stigma?
whew, that is a really heavy topic.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very layered. Weight stigma is just really dangerous, and it's actually a really big issue that no one ever talks about. We talk about all the other forms of stigma, but then this one seems to be the socially acceptable one. And it's super dangerous because it causes people to start hating themselves. Instead of it being a motivation to be healthy, it really wreaks havoc on mental and physical health. And just another thing that it really does is it stops people from getting the health care that they need. So many times, a lot of diagnoses go unnoticed because they go to the doctor and they're just discriminated against their weight. They're told to lose weight, even if the reason that they're there has absolutely nothing to do with their weight. And just another big piece of weight stigma is that, in a way, it perpetuates racism because the ideal form of beauty is being thin and white, and so many people on earth don't fit that. And so for everyone who doesn't conform to what society thinks is beautiful, they have such a harder life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you touched on like big key points, and yes, this is a big conversation. So I appreciate you kind of simplifying it a bit, even though it's such a complex and nuanced conversation. So people
Hmm.
watching can get curious and start exploring this, because it's not up to like everybody to like lay out all the information. It's about giving the information so we can do our own research.
Exactly.
So you did a post the other day. I keep referring to your Instagram, but it's just so good. And I'm gonna ask you like to give your information at the end, because I want people, they need to start like, we surround ourselves with all these different fitspo people with like the quick fixes and the fad diet, and we
Hmm.
just see that one sort of, thin white aesthetic to what health and fitness looks like, and I fall under that category. And so if people are following just people like me and people in this very
Hmm.
uh what's the word, I was gonna be like monotonous, but it's not monotonous, but it's like homogenous, would that be the word? Let's go for that.
I don't, let's go with that.
Let's go with that one. People will correct me if I'm wrong anyway. Then it's just keeping the world so small, and we're not able to see the bigger picture,
Hmm.
like the implications of weight stigma, like that. So in
Exactly.
your on your Instagram page, you did a great post on BMI, and working with clients, I often get the counter when I'm like, okay, BMI isn't the be all end all. They're very very adamant that like, well, I'm obese or I'm in the overweight category, this is bad. And yet these are like medicalized terms and perpetuate that phobic rhetoric, as well as not giving accurate information on what BMI is. So would you be able to just break it down, like why isn't BMI the standard of determining if you're healthy or not?
Okay, so first of all, this whole notion of BMI is ancient. And the person that created the whole thing actually said that it wasn't even for determining individual health. It was supposed to be for population health. And then the other big thing is that the sample size for the test in the first place were all white people. There was no consideration of other races at all, yet today we generalize it for everyone. For example, BMI is actually, it overestimates health problems in Black people. They tend to have higher muscle mass for their weight compared to others. And for Asian people, it underestimates health outcomes because a lot of times the healthier BMIs are actually seen as heavier for them. So it's just a dangerous approach at looking at everyone's health. Like other things, it doesn't account for your gender, it doesn't account for your muscle mass, or just so many other things. So it's more important to look at what your individual habits are when it comes to health. Like, how active are you? How's your diet? And it doesn't mean that your diet has to be perfectly healthy or anything like that, but are you eating as much as you should be eating? Those are the more important things to think about. Or what are your lab results like? What are your blood sugars? What's your blood pressure? Just other ways of looking at health are so much more important than just focusing on BMI.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was a really great breakdown. And what you just kind of said at the end, kind of looking at health from a, how can I take care of myself independent of weight loss, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned earlier, so you're not practicing, like not a practicing nutritionist at the moment, or taking on clients, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But you are a Zumba instructor, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So I'd love to know if your relationship with fitness has changed over the years as you've navigated diet culture and gotten to the Zumba space, and how that all came together for you.
So sorry. Could you please repeat that question? There is a toddler that is begging at the door, so I did not catch that at all. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's like this is real. This is real life right now. This is what's happening.
Yes,
So,
my bad.
no, that's all good. So all I was asking is, since you're a Zumba instructor, if your relationship with fitness has changed over the years and how you got to become a Zumba instructor. Yeah.
Okay. So as I said, when I was a kid, I was actually very active. I tried all kinds of different things. Like I tried ballet, I was figure skating for a while, and I even did do more dance classes. And I really enjoyed it. But then as I got older, I started feeling out of place when it came to fitness. So I dropped out of figure skating just because of all the weight stigma that I felt. You know, like other girls had the cute costumes, but there were no cute costumes in my size. And I just ended up feeling like a whale on the ice. So I quit. And then I kind of blanked out with fitness for a really long time. And it was only when I went back to that dietitian and I talked to her and we kind of got to the root cause. She asked me, like, what's the last thing that you remember doing, like enjoyable activity that you weren't doing for weight loss or just to burn the most calories? And I realized that what I was most passionate about was dance, and specifically dance fitness. And I just loved Zumba classes when I was younger. So I got back to doing that. And it was just so much fun. And I realized, like, you know what? I'm always talking about Zumba, promoting Zumba. I might as well just be an instructor because of how much I love music and I love being around people. So it was just a really good way of letting out my personality in a really productive way.
Yeah, I love that. Just finding joy in movement, especially like growing up, having to deal with weight stigma, and then coming into your own where you can promote this like body positive or body acceptance movement practice for people who just want to just reconnect with themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
love
important.
it so much. Yeah, I have some friends. I have a friend who's a Zumba instructor, and she loved it also. I just hear like great things about Zumba, and watching you dance on your Instagram feed, I'm like, yes, yes. So much fun.
Have you tried Zumba before?
I have. I haven't found a great studio personally. I grew up dancing, but like, I don't know, do you do online Zumba, or is it very like in person right now?
In person. I mean, not now because of COVID.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to move to virtual. I really don't want to though, but it's just typically in-person classes.
Yeah, because I would love to take one of your classes. Your class, like, you're so much fun. I would do that because I haven't found a fun one yet. To be honest, I haven't been really searching for one, so I'm sure.
Yeah, that's fair. Every instructor is so different, so you just gotta find someone you actually like and you enjoy the music too.
Yeah, and I think that's the same thing with the nutritionist, right? Like, there's so many people in this field, and as they're going through education, they're not being taught. Like, I know I wasn't taught. I'm a health coach, so I didn't go through the same sort of schooling as a dietitian like you per se. Yet it's still very weight normative. It's very like weight centric, and it doesn't address stigma and all those things, which are so important, because then it gets into the topic of like trauma from that, which you even mentioned in your own journey. It was traumatizing, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So okay, this is a really educational, informative, and fun conversation with you. So I have a few questions just to wrap up, and then I'll give your information and get you to kind of talk about that a little bit. But question number one,
okay.
Are you are you a dishes like clean the same day, like you use it, it's in the sink, then you dry and all that stuff, or do you kind of like let it build up over time?
I think the buildup really stresses me and then just makes me not want to do it at all. So I think I'm more of like, let's just get it over with on the same day and keep it moving.
Yeah, I'm the same. I feel the same way. My partner is not the same way, but I'm like, I don't know about you, but just the opposites right there. But yeah.
There needs to be people like us.
Exactly. Love that. Okay.
Exactly.
Next question. So if you could go travel back in time and tell your younger self one lesson you've learned over the years, what would it be?
I think because the biggest diet that I ever had, like the biggest experience, the most traumatic experience, was what I went through in high school when I had a crush on a guy. I would tell myself that you should never, ever, ever try to change yourself for a person to get love or anything like that, because the person that is right for you and will love you will care for so much more than your looks. Your weight is literally the least interesting thing about you. And you should be with someone who values your thoughts and just loves you for who you actually are. And even though you're never going to be skinny, that is okay. You're perfect the way you are. And your value has nothing to do with your size. I think I would really just try to drive that home and just also say that you can find love. No matter how big you are, you can find love.
Gotta do like a mic drop moment or something. That was so good. Yes. That's such a beautiful message, and I think we need to hear that more from ourselves, that like self-compassion. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Okay, so again, thank you for your time and connecting with me today. Where can people find you to learn more about you and how they could potentially work with you and all that jazz?
Um, Instagram is the best way to contact me and to learn about more of what I preach about every single day. And I also have my website, thethinknutritionist.com. And on there right now, I'm selling merchandise that supports the anti-diet message. So that's what I'm up to right now. And I'm looking to do more speaking engagements. So if anyone wants to chat, I am so excited to do that. And you can just find me on my Instagram, The Thick Nutritionist.
Awesome. Okay, do you want me to also leave your email address in the description, or they can just go to your like website or something to contact you for like a speaking engagement if you're wanting that?
I guess you can just put it at the bottom.
Yeah.
My email is my last name, NGINDI, at thethicknutritionist.com.
Awesome. Yay. I can't wait to hear more speaking events from you because this was a really
Thank
great
you.
conversation. So, for those of you who are watching, make sure to get on my mailing list also to know about upcoming interviews, events, and receive additional resources to help you nurture your body through curiosity, compassion, and courage so you too can find worth beyond measurement. I would love to know what your biggest takeaway from this interview was. You can either leave it in the comments below, reach out to Natasha, reach out to me. We'd love to hear it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.